I just want to make sure that I'm pronouncing the name right. Is Shelah or Shelah?
Shelah. But you got
okay. I just wanted to.
It's going to come out differently in Spanish, so don't worry about it.
Shelah. Like okay, no, Shelah. No, I wanted to be sure. You know, it's like, you know, because you never know. You know.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And I'm going to do the introduction. Hello, everyone.
Oh, yeah. And first of all, sorry about, because I'm in a hotel room, so sorry about the
that's
whatever you're saying. Actually, let me take this stuff out.
Oh no, okay, that's okay. Where are you?
I'm in Hotel Kabuki in the Japantown area, San Francisco.
Japantown, okay.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places, Japantown.
Yes.
Okay, recording. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to Streetwise Radio. I'm Shelah Moody. In honor of Latin Heritage Month, I'm proud to welcome our esteemed guest, Grammy-winning saxophonist David Sanchez. David is currently a member of the prestigious SFJAZZ Collective and will be performing at Minor Auditorium in San Francisco on October 28th and October 29th. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much, Shelah. Thanks for having me. You know, I appreciate that. You know.
Great. And like I said, October is Latin Heritage Month. What does it mean to you to be a band leader in the Latin jazz movement?
Oh, well, you know, I mean, first of all, you know, it's a long lineage, you know, right? And it's you know, it's an honor it's a, you know, in a way, you know, I'm privileged, you know, really to be a part of a long tradition, indeed, a long tradition. So although I never like to categorize my music, you know, my music is, you know, like the music I write and how I play is just a recollection of different experiences throughout my life. So with that being said, obviously, yeah, it's gonna bring on my experiences growing up in Puerto Rico, and especially the Afro-Puerto Rican roots influence is always gonna be present. With that being said, you know, all those years, you know, 15, 16 years in New York, now 13 in Atlanta, you know, traveling the world constantly since I was 19, that it'll be incomplete if I said that what I do is Latin jazz and that's it. It comes from there. It comes from there and beyond. Not from Latin jazz, but beyond that, it comes from roots music, Afro, Latino roots music, you know, specifically.
Afro-Latino roots music. Great. Is there such a thing as a Puerto Rican aesthetic in music?
Let me make sure that I'm following up what that exactly what you mean aesthetic, you know, like a specific
like a sound, certain you know, sounds from nature or from drums or the piano, like scenes from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, yes.
Culture, elements of the culture.
Yes, well, there are different within the expression, you know, musical expression in Puerto Rico are different. It's like a tree, right? You have all these, you know, it's the trunk, you know, the basic of the roots, you know, where the tree comes from, and then you have the limbs, you know, and all that stuff. So you have, like, for instance, music from the mountains, the troubadour music, you know, and that's, or Jíbaro, we call it Jíbaro music from the mountains, and that's specifically a musical tradition that you know, it involves a lot of guitar sounds, strings sounds. Cuatro is the folkloric, the national, not folkloric. I actually hate the word folkloric, by the way. But anyway, because anyway, I know I won't get into it now, but going to the point, that the national instrument in Puerto Rico, one of the national instruments is the cuatro, which is like a smaller than much smaller than a guitar. And it's very similar than the tres, from Cuba, very similar than the cuatro in Venezuela, for instance. And so that music is for, that instrument is it plays a central role, and the guiro, and it depends, it varies, but the key of that particular musical tradition is that they have decimas, and those decimas for the young people out there, so they could relate. That will be the freestyling of today. So if you're in hip hop, you have a top, like it's a topic comes, right? And then you're freestyling whatever is going on. So it's exactly the same concept of that. It's a long tradition. So it has that one, obviously has, African roots, but also have Creole, el criollo, right? In Puerto Rico, and also roots from Spain as well, which is the part of the, comes from the guitar, the guitar variation or adaptation, which is the cuatro. So that's one musical sound. And then you have a more Afro folklore, Afro roots music, that in the tradition that is called bomba and plena. And that's throughout. That's a very, very specific sound. It's totally different. But it has in the case of bomba, which is, developed, was developed by the, obviously the slaves were brought and to endure that hard labor and stuff, and the difference in the Caribbean and in most places anyway, and the similarities we have with New Orleans is that the slaves were allowed to play the drums on Sundays. Be Catholic, it was come from the Catholic tradition. So they were, in their tradition, they would allow actually the slave to have the Sunday to gather and play and all that, as opposed to the Protestant, like church and or Anglo, that did not happen. So with that being said, the bomba was and I'm simplifying this, of course, it was developed from that and evolved, and they started, they adapted to what they had, what in the situations they were. The instruments, like the wine barrels, became actually the body of the drums. Then they would put goat skin, and that became the barrel, the bomb or the bomba, and that's how it started. That's one tradition. Then you have plena, which is a similar concept, but yet very different instruments. Los panderos, it's an instrument, it's a hand drumming, but you don't play it. You don't sit and hold it in, between your legs and play it. You play it right here by hand, and it's three of them. Like the big one that is called seguidor. And then you have the middle one, and the quinto, which is the one that improvises, kind of. So that's another musical tradition. It's totally, it's a different sound. So with that being said, it's within a very small island, you have, all, these traditions that are different. You have danza, which is more European oriented, but and yet has the African influence, in the genre as well. And that's more, piano, and it has like more classical instruments, clarinet, tuba, all that's a different thing as well.
Great. And I've been listening. I'm addicted to your album, Carib. It's just beautiful. And I
thank you.
To it every day. And I hear your interaction, your conversation with the piano and the drums. Can you speak on that in your recording and your live music?
Yeah, music to me, growing up, one thing was clear. It was a part of, it was not necessarily like something that you were like, oh, let's go study music. It was a part of daily life, when I was growing up. And but in the main objective, when the get-togethers was to communicate, so that was not too boring to me, like then when when I started playing, obviously my formal studies in music and, you know, in the school, and you obviously you analyzing things now, and you looking at things with from a different angle, if you will. But yet, you know, once, especially in improvisation, what we are really doing is composing. But the only difference is that instead of having a score and you sit down and you get the time to write it, you know, your composition, whatever, we are doing it at the moment. Therefore, that has is very complex, because it's not about me necessarily talking all the time. It's about having an actual conversation, and the conversation itself is going to be the story, you know, that we're going to make together, and how fluent that story to the story is, or how is that story going to flow, is going to depend on all these things. Now, how you relate when you stay away, you listen, you're reacting to something, and then and obviously percussion. I started off as a, you know, playing percussion. It's in me, you know. I when I was very little, my brother, you know, I'm the youngest, and you know, like it's like at least 9 years in between, and us, and then the oldest is I have 2 sisters, and they, you know, like one is 15 or something years older, the other 30 than my brother than I. So
wow.
You know, they were already playing, you know, specifically my brother, you know, and that seeing all the percussion instruments and listening to the recordings, that was a work, sort of like a workout without knowing it, because, you know, like you're like around the instruments, you're playing along with recordings, then, you know, listening to your brother play, and or simply being exposed to the instrument. So I was, I don't know, I had a connection that was very special with the drums from a very, very early age, that it was then later on, even when I, you know, went on a different direction, you know, playing saxophone, but still it's very evident that my interaction with percussionists or drummers are, in a way, are the way they would not develop or be the same way if I wouldn't have had those experiences before. Without a doubt. So that's why that's why you feel the connection that you hear and feel with the drums, and the piano too, because the piano ultimately is a percussion instrument. Most people don't view it like that, but ultimately it is a percussion instrument. So that happens to be melodic too, and you know, and harmonic, you know. So yeah, you know, so all that stuff comes really, you know, from years, my early years, you know, and you know, obviously this is now you reflecting. You don't even think about it really, it just happens, you know. But yeah, I have to say that definitely influenced the way I'm play and write music too.
Great. And tell us about your upcoming shows with the SFJAZZ Collective.
Well, you know, this is the new season finally. Right. After this craziness, the COVID and this crazy pandemic, and you know, it's unreal. So finally we coming together after a year and a half, almost 2 years. I'm, you know, we're so happy and we feel so blessed to have the opportunity of coming together again. And just the fact, you know, the fact that we just have the opportunity to come together and make music itself is just amazing. And I you know, I now see things in a little bit differently. You know, I'm so appreciative, you know, of the opportunity that I have in front of me, and coming together this year, especially, it's going to be special, not only because we're coming together after a long time of layoff, but not playing, but also because we decided to make it like basically open. Leave always is, there's a topic, there's a theme, and obviously everything goes around the concept of writing It's a composer's workshop that happens to be an all-star composers workshop, and that every season is dedicated to a prominent influential composer. So that's actually sort of the concept behind the all these years, you know, like behind every season, and every season is different. It never repeats. So this year, because of the circumstances, we, you know, and the adversities that we have had all this time, many of us, most of us, we decided to not to dedicate it to any composer in particular, but just leave it open and dedicate it to our experiences during these challenging times and social justice. Because the power of the pandemic, that pandemic really what did was expose a lot of situations that were right in our faces, but somehow, some way they were covered by us being busy and moving around and many times consciously ignore, you know, but it was always there. It was like the pandemic basically is like if you have a carpet, you clean in the house and you have a carpet and you cleaning everything except for, you know, underneath the carpet or the rug, and better say the rug, and then you know, and finally you go like this and put the rug and you see all the dirt in there. So that's basically what the pandemic did. And then you put it in a, I don't know, in a magnifier, and you see the dirt really clear. And you see the problems that you have and how dysfunctional we are in many ways. And that's good. That's good. That's good, because then we can do something about it. It's worth having the situation and then not doing anything about it. But when it's in front of us and you say, wow, I can't believe this is happening. Also, it's been happening all the time. Of course, it's been happening all the time. So now we decided to dedicate that, put our energies and our efforts to write music that reflects in one way or the other a social justice and the experiences that we have during the pandemic.
That's great. And speaking of pandemic, SFJAZZ is now requiring vaccination proof before you're allowed. Does that make you feel any safer during live performances?
It does. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I go, you know, and again, you know, I mean, it's you know, for some people, you know, I'm not judging. You know, everybody got their reasons for not doing it, or you know, and I'm not trying to, but you know, to criticize that. But in a way, I mean, if we're together, this has to come a time that we, in crisis, when we have to, you know, come together, try to come together as much as we can, and so that we can move forward. And in a health crisis, you know, you can't ignore facts, right? You know, I mean, right. Facts are facts, because that's what we hear. That's why in our development as a species, you know, we have found all the, here we are, and we have all these platforms. The bizarre thing is how some people trust science to use a platform from some satellite in the space to say that they don't believe in science. I'm like, but you're expressing that you don't, you're skeptical of science, and you're expressing it out there with science, you know. So how is that? You know, but going back to the thing, I do feel safer because, okay, you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, it's been shown that people that have been vaccinated have, you know, being contracted the virus, you know. I mean, but it's very rare. You have, you know, the chances are low, very low. And then on top of that, if you protect yourself, you know, in certain environments, you wear your mask, you know, when there's a certain amount of people inside, you know, you always do that, you know, just in case, you know. And we're going to be out of this, you know. It's just, I know it's frustrating, but we need to be patient, continue being patient, so we can really get out. You know, we've seen the light, so let's just continue moving forward so that we can get back, you know.
Yeah,
But,
get back.
yeah, I'm happy that the SF Jazz is being very proactive with it. And it's been amazing how they've done things, you know, very responsible, very centered. And I like that because it makes an environment that it makes you feel secure, like you said.
That's great. That's great. And you are currently my favorite tenor sax player. I'd pick Branford Marsalis on soprano sax, but you on tenor. And
Oh, wow, wow, I'm flattered. Oh, oh, wow,
so why the tenor sax? Your tone is so beautiful.
no, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, this is funny. Like I chose the tenor, specifically the tenor sax, out of all the other ones, because there was something warm, and at the same time, it's so many, how should you call it, different textures that you can get from the sound of the tenor. And when I was in the performing arts school, and I wanted to become a drummer, because you know I was saying before, early in the home, you know, that's how I was exposed to drum, percussion instruments, drums. That's all. And I went to a performing arts school in Puerto Rico. It's called Escuela Libre de Música, and I, you know, you have to specifically, you know, you have to take some exams and you know, to get in. So I passed you know, everything. The only thing is that when I chose percussion, they told me there's only one problem, that this particular year is being on too many, you know, I say, yeah, the students enrolling for percussion were like, you know, astronomical, and they asked me to pick another instrument, and I was like, wow, it was a bummer. I mean, at that time, but then I like the reed instruments because they sing. It has like a quality vocal alike thing, like the human voice. But then I specifically chose the tenor because I heard some music, you know, at home, you know, my sister would play all type of music, and this was a recording that was a Miles Davis recording, and back then it was an album, you know, an LP, and it was a green record. I remember that it was called Basic Miles, and it was a compilation of different Miles Davis's periods. And you know, I remember listening to one of them, and I was like, you know, I want that. I love that, the sound of that instrument, and that's it. That's not really pretty much how I chose and stay playing tenor. Although I have played soprano, I played flute at some point in my life before, and everything. But the tenor, there's something special about the tenor and the connection with the sound. I don't know. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And speaking of sound, tell us about your collaborations with Branford Marsalis, who's also going to be at SFJAZZ this month.
Oh yes, you know, Branford's my big brother. You know, like, I mean, we connected from the very first time we met, which was in Europe. I was with Eddie Palmieri, and he was touring with his quartet. And this was in 89.
89.
This was 89. I'm pretty sure it was 80. If it wasn't 89, it was 90, but I'm pretty sure it was 89. And yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I was a fan, you know, like from high school. I was like listening to the Marsalis brothers. I was listening to you know, that young movement that it was coming out, sort of like a renaissance of in a way of like going back to acoustic instruments, and you know, taking that the music. It was like a force. I mean, Winton and Branford and Jeff, you know, Tane Watts, Kenny Kirkland, and you know, and then Terrence Blanchard with Donald Harrison. You know, that was our other movement from New Orleans as well. So we already knew each other. I mean, I knew him through recording. So I told him, and he was like, wow, Eddie Palmieri. And we connected right away. And since then we had a really, really unbelievable friendship. And at the time that I was in Colombia, he was in Colombia, Sony Colombia Records. And when the right opportunity came, and they were talking about possible producers, you know, and it's like, and when I heard one of them was Branford, I thought, no, Branford, because that's the one I knew that I had a connection with him already. So he produced Obsession, and later on he produced Melaza, which it's a recording that is really, really special for me, for the, you know, the top, the theme behind the recording. The source of inspiration was very special to me, because like Carib, it was a tribute. It was a tribute to the ancestors, a tribute to the, you know, sort of reflection. Yeah, it's like kind of like a reflection for the ancestors, and like a way of thanking them. In this case, it's called Melaza, which is molasses in English, in you know, because of the sugarcane industry. You know, all these people work and make what we, you know, later on, what we live in. You know, everything that was built was because of them, thanks to them. And so that recording was about that. But it has so many parallels with Carib now. And Branford was the producer, and he played too, and it was unbelievable. I mean, and I'm so much looking forward to seeing him. He's going to be later on and a part of the program as well at the SFJAZZ Center.
That's awesome. Now, the SFJAZZ did a tribute to Michael Jackson some years ago. Were you involved in that tribute?
Yes. Yeah, I was already in the. At the collective. Yeah, that was at the SFJAZZ Collective.
Yes. Did you ever meet or work with Michael Jackson?
No, never. I wish.
Okay.
I mean, it had to be an unbelievable experience. I mean, such an artist like that. But no, I never had the you know, the pleasure to.
So what was it like translating Michael's music into jazz?
Well, you know, it was, in a way, in my case, you know, like as I was mentioning before, half of the task is that you have to make the arrangement, and then you write a piece. You commission to do both. This year was dedicated to Michael Jackson. In my case, I chose Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
Oh yeah.
So I chose that, and for me, the easiest thing was to take it from the, you know, from the bottom, and the bottom is all rhythms. There's layers of rhythms, and it's amazing, you know, like, and obviously that creates polyrhythms, that layer, but every layer plays a role in order to have the harmony. Yeah, and when I say harmony, it's like, you know, to have like coherence. And I went to the actual, you know, the lineage from West Africa. I took that and I mixed it up with, you know, stuff from that it comes from the same place in the Caribbean, and that's my arrangement. You know, was pretty much based on that, and then the jazz element comes, you know, from some of the harmonies and the improvisation. But I would not even say like, well, that's a jazz arrangement. I would say that's just Afrocentric music.
Wow. I was thinking that I was in the audience one night during one of those tributes, and it was so powerful. It was great. And you also toured with the late great Dizzy Gillespie. What was that experience like?
Oh man, unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, Dizzy was a force. You know, he created a movement, one of the most beautiful human beings that I've been around. You know, I'm not sure there's some people, they just have that thing. They walk into a room and the room just kind of like lights up, you know, like it becomes, and then he he had it was innate in him to share and to give. You know, it was just like a normal thing and super relaxed and, you know, like, or casual. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like these casual things. Hey, you know, well, that'd be great. You know, let's do this. You know, like, you know, oh, you want to come? You know, like, come here. It's very super chill, relaxed, and not afraid of giving and sharing all his genius. You know, as a guy, was a pioneer of several genres. You know, bebop movement, one of the forefront of the bebop movement, then at the forefront of the development of Afro-Caribbean music and jazz. You know, one of the first ones in putting real elements of Eastern, you know, kind of like, yeah, Eastern sounds, you know, like from, you know, Northern Africa, you know, to like, different parts of, you know, of the Middle East. You know, you can clearly hear those influences, and then never lost touch with his roots. You know, in the Carolinas, you would hear all of those experiences in one, and he would share them with you, and that was beyond words. It was an unbelievable experience, you know, indeed.
That's great. And one of our last questions, what are some of your favorite places to go in San Francisco? You don't live here, do you? You're just
No. I live in Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite places to go in San Francisco around town?
In general?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you know, there's several. They happen to be food places.
Oh, okay.
I like to eat. So yeah. So there's so many great restaurants in here. But you know, I like to go to La Marina, you know, like the area, you know, where, you know, that's beautiful, you know, although a little bit chilly sometimes, but I like to see that, the farmers market. I love checking that out. And you know, on the weekends, there are man, like so many restaurants that I enjoy in here. Actually, one of them is a simple place. It's called Le Rotisserie, and very, very, very simple, but right, like, oh man, it's incredible. And you know, in the breaks, I'll go there a lot. I like you know, the natural wine culture here is really incredible. You know, a lot of you know, like, so you can find some really good places, and one is called Terroir, and yeah, it's a great place. You know, I like that place too. So, you know, I mean, it's a hard question because I like many places.
But it's so interesting to know what a musical genius, what you like to do, you know? And
well,
you know. Great. And last questions, where can we hear the music of David Sanchez? How could we hear your music, and what's the next step after SFJAZZ?
Well, you know, it's going to be getting back to, you know, just like we getting back, you know, with my own thing, you know, after we did all that, you know, we got Carib was out, we had all these plans, then we got the 2 nominations for the Grammy, and yeah, so which great. So we're thinking, okay, we're gonna have like a second win. Now we're gonna, and then the pandemic hit, and so basically we're working. Obviously, it's very hard because it's been a long layoff, and then they basically rescheduling things. So and it's so many of them that they cannot do all of them. And for me, part of the, I guess the you know, complicated situation is that, you know, sometimes you have to decide, okay, I have to do this period of time, the collective, and then I got to wait the other turn to do my thing, because now more than ever I don't need to tell you that it's saturated, you know, at the point that it's a lot, you know, it's very few venues with many different options, and then use so much you can fit, you know, and it's a result of from the pandemic, you know, everything got, you know, out of place, sort of, you know. So the 22 is when I'm okay. Some of spring 22 and fall 22 is going to be towards, again, Carib, but I'm also recording like a second edition of it. And this time, you know, Carib was focusing in music from folkloric music from Puerto Rico, you know, and specifically bomba throughout, but some elements from the, you know, that comes from the West and also the North, really. I mean, and mixing that with Haitian influence, you know, and specifically Congo Guinea tradition, because it's, you know, I felt like it was the closest one to our musical tradition in terms of the drumming and everything. So, but this one I'm planning to do, and I'm working on it. It's going to be similar because it's still bomba. The only thing is that it specifically is the tradition of Loíza, which is a town and you know, a lot of basically Afro-descendant community that is in Loíza, and that's in the northeast part of Puerto Rico. And I'm focusing because there are the way they play and the way their flow is totally different, including they call the rhythms differently. Some of the rhythms, you know, and they have like their own ways of doing the singing, playing, and dancing. So I'm basically doing a few, you know, the concept is going to be similar than Carib, but with that and the San Basilio de Palenque in Colombia, another Afro-descendant community that was founded by Bencos Biojo. It was the first town, a free Black, you know, town emancipated in 1691, 200 years before Haiti. So, but you know, it was just this region, and they sort of like and literally Palenque means it's like how you say, right, runaway, you know, the one
runaway.
Like that would be one of that would be the equivalent of that, like when, you know, they were in the mountains, and those, you know, that word it means kind of like that in their language. So and that I found that their tradition is so unbelievable and fascinating, how all the similarities and all the parallels as well. So that's what's going to be next.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you, everybody. This is Shelah Moody reporting for Streetwise Radio, and thank you to our esteemed guest, Grammy winner David Sanchez, tenor sax player extraordinaire. Can you give us a greeting, meaning a goodbye in Spanish?
Sí, a todos mis hermanos latinos y todos de habla hispana, quiero mandarle un abrazote, un saludo, y espero verles. Vamos a estar ahora próximamente en octubre, toda la semana esta del 26 de octubre. Vamos a estar en el SFJAZZ, el centro del SFJAZZ, y espero verlos a todos. Un abrazo.
Okay, gracias, David. Gracias, and we will see you at SFJAZZ. What dates again?
It's supposed to be 26. Oh, actually, let me get that together. Like I don't want to say something and they're like, wait, you
okay.
the wrong days. No, you know, actually, I say 26, and it's really actually from the 28th, Thursday the 28th, through the Sunday, which is the 31st of October. So yeah, so that's pretty much it, you know, from Thursday through Sunday. And we have basically 2 sets, I believe, Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think it's one set. Actually, let me just not say much because I don't know how many sets we do, but the bottom line that we're playing there 28th, from the 28th to the 31st.
All right. Okay. We will see you there, David. And thank you for this wonderful interview. And you have a blessed night. Keep
Thank
up
you.
the work. Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.